For this experiment, I took 6 gummy bears and put 3 of them in one solution and 3 of them in another one to compare how they, to see how they compared to normal gummy bears. So I had 3 in a tap water solution, 3 in a saltwater solution, and then 3 that are just normal gummy bears. A solution is a homogeneous mixture of 2 or more substances that contains varying amounts of solute and solvent. In a solution, a solute is mixed into a solvent in order to make a solution. In the case of this experiment, the solution is the salt water, and the solute is the salt mixture, and the solvent the tap water. Tap water is a solution of its own, but I didn't make one. To make my saltwater solution, I boiled a cup of water and then measured out 100 milliliters of that water and mixed in 7.5 teaspoons of salt in order to make a saturated solution of salt water. A saturated solution is one in which the solute is unable to dissociate anymore. No more ions are able to fit, in a sense, into the water. Water is a polar substance and salt is ionically bonded. Both polar bonds and ionic bonds contain charges and so mix into each other well, as like attracts like. The ions sodium and chlorine dissociate fully into the water. And once I had made my saturated saltwater solution, I filled 2 clear cups labeled tap water and, hold on, I could get my saltwater one, and salt water. You can't see it, but it's there. And placed 3 gummy bears into each cup. After 8 hours, I took my 6 gummy bears out of their respective solutions and cataloged their differences. My 3 gummy bears that were in the tap water solution, which you can't really see them, but they're really big, were much larger than normal gummy bears. They had grown in size, they had lost all definition, and they were incredibly slippery. My 3 gummy bears in the saltwater solution, which is here, were smaller than normal gummy bears, but not as significantly different in size as the normal ones. They too had lost definition and were also a different texture than that of normal gummy bears. The reason for the differences between these gummy bears has to do with the type of solution in which they were. There are 3 kinds of solutions when it comes to differences in concentrations between solutions and then the things in those solutions. There are isotonic solutions, hypertonic solutions, and hypotonic solutions. An isotonic solution is one in which there are equal concentrations in the solution and the substance that's in that solution. A hypertonic solution is one that contains less water and more molecules in the substance than in the solution. A hypotonic solution is one that contains more water and less molecules in the solution than the substance that is within that solution. The gummy bears in the salt water were in a hypertonic solution. The salt water contained more salt and less water than within the gummy bears, and so the water left the gummy bears to join the solution. The gummy bears in the tap water were in a hypotonic solution. Tap water is by definition a hypotonic solution, meaning there was more salt and less water within the gummy bears than in the tap water, and so water diffused into the gummy bears from the water. Gummy bears are made of sugar, starch, and gelatin, and they have no water, and so water moves into the gummy bear as it's an area of lower concentration. This diffusion occurs because of the concept of osmosis, which is the diffusion of water from areas of high concentration to areas of lower concentration. So areas that already have a lot of water to areas that have less water, or in other words, water moves to where there's less water. Osmosis is an example of passive diffusion, meaning it requires no energy to diffuse and is powered simply by the presence of concentration gradients or the presence of different concentrations. Solutions are incredibly important to all living things, especially cells, which make up all living things. In red blood cells, it's really clear and easy to see the differences between the solutions and how they affect the cells and like the functionality of those cells. In hypotonic solutions, the red blood cell swells, as the gummies did in the tap water, because water moves into the cell as there's a higher concentration of molecules in the cell and less water. While in a hypertonic solution, the cell shrinks, like the gummies did in the salt water, because there's a higher concentration of molecules outside the cell, and so the water moves out of the cell in order to equalize that concentration. Red blood cells exist and function best in isotonic solutions where the concentration of molecules outside the cell is equal to the concentrations inside the cell. The cell, while in this solution, is in equilibrium and there's no net movement inside or outside of the cell, and so the cell remains the same size when in isotonic solutions. Interestingly enough, though, different cells, like different cell types of animals, plants, stuff like that, need different solutions in order to survive and function best. So in plant cells, they actually require a hypotonic solution, and it's like more ideal for them because plasma membranes can only expand to like the limit of the rigid cell wall. So the plant cell isn't going to burst or lyse because of the cell wall. And plant cells are like they're always taking in water and they need water, and so hypotonic solutions work best for those kind of cells. But like animal cells and red blood cells, which are animal cells, tend to function best in isotonic solutions because they are able to burst, to shrink, and like need the there's a lot of thunder going on outside my house, need the equal concentration in order to survive and function. Cells, just like most living things, are incredibly sensitive and require specific concentrations in order to function best, and what works for one isn't going to work for everything. And that's solutions, and I can't like hold up all my gummy bears at once, but these are my little saltwater gummies. They're kind of small and gross. I don't know if you can see them. And then we have my normal gummies. And then we have my very, very large, squishy tap water gummies. And yeah, those are my gummies. Thank you.